I made this on camera. You'll get to see me throwing and wrapping it around the tube. And right after I made this, I went ahead and I made a second one with a large mouth so I can make a wooden lid. So those two worked out really good. And then I just kept going. And you can see this one right here is, I think it was 34 inches. It's starting to dry. I made it bigger than I can fit in my kiln. So I'm going to actually make a couple more of those, and then we'll do a firing where I remove the lid and add a couple extra rings of brick to see if I can get that in. But these two, bisque last night too, and they turned out really good. A couple of little minor issues, but the big question is just going to be how does it glaze? They're not super heavy either. You know, the wall thickness is whatever it is, but I left the bottom and the tops quite thick. But when it's bisque fired, it's not terribly heavy. It feels good in the hand. What I'm trying to do is ensure that this inside wall is not tapered in one way or the other. It's going to make it easier to get a cork. I mean, if it's slightly tapered, I'd rather have it tapered open a tiny bit, but relatively straight walls for, I don't know, maybe an inch, a little bit less than an inch of the inside. Okay, and we'll let this dry up, and tomorrow I'll flip it up into a chuck and we'll trim it. Well, I had thought it would be a good idea to not pre-peel the slab because it'll stretch it, but it's proving difficult. So, and I don't know if you noticed, but I put paper on this tube, and the paper is taped to itself, but it is not taped to the tube. So when this is done, we should be able to slip the tube out. Okay, let's see how easy this is going to come out. And there we go. I can use this, make another, let that stiffen up. Okay, it's ready for trimming. Just want to go ahead and get rid of all of this junk and put a foot down, a recess for the pipe to go in. Top and bottom I don't think is going to matter. What I'm probably most worried about here is when I made these pieces, I put them right into my wet box. So they dry, but they dry much slower. This I let sit out specifically because I wanted it to get a little bit of spine to it so it could handle being moved without, you know, getting messed up. But that also means it's ahead on its shrinking, and so this looks too small for this piece. But I think it's all going to come together. So there, I think that looks good. I don't want to do any pinching because I don't want to deflect, but to the extent that I can smear the two pieces together seems like a good thing to do. Oh man, this is soft. So if I'm going to have a problem, it's going to be the shrink rate differential, for sure. Well, I think that is pretty freaking fun. Just got to make sure that makes it through glazing. Once it's glazed, any little gaps in here will be filled. We're going to be good. We just got to make it through glaze. How fun is that? So I'm going to get some glaze on these now, and we're going to fire them and see how they turn out. So on this one, what I want to do is do a white bottom. Maybe I'll hold it by the neck and I'll pour white over the whole thing. And then we'll turn it over and I'll get a series of different colors out. And I want to do a real thick, runny glaze on this. I just haven't done that in a while. It's fun to do. So that's the plan. First thing, I need to get the white on, just like the white on the inside. And then we'll start going through the process of layering And hopefully we'll get some nice runs, and hopefully we don't have any crawling. It's always the danger, at least for me. The more layers I put on, the more of a chance there's a bald spot where it just kind of like a glacier moved away. So we don't want that, but that's the plan. Okay, so for the top of this bottle, I want to start with seafoam, and then I'm going to work my way down the line. We're going to put a coat of floating blue on that. And then some rivulet over the whole thing. Okay, next up is floating blue. So I'm just going to use a syringe, and I have a small jar of Val's rivulet when we were experimenting with eggshells versus whiting. So might as well squirt a little of this on. We actually don't need a whole bunch. Oof. That doesn't look bad. So there you are. Val's rivulet on the shoulder. And then we have the two bigger ones with the red over the white. And then Temaku on the top and bottom with the ancient jasper in between. So these are going to be real fun. I'll fire them tonight. So here they are in the kiln. I think they turned out great. I'll show them to you one at a time. The drips turned out really good on this. The gloss from the rivulet is really nice and shiny. A little bit of variegation, no crawling of the glaze. It would have been fun if it went a little further down the body, but I think that looks really good. So that's number one. Number two. This ended up being interesting, kind of orangey, but I like the scratch pattern. The Temaku turned out nice. You can see the drips, which I'm not always a fan of, but I think it looks good. And I made a loosely fitting lid. I need to finish polishing up this lid, but I'm going to use this I'm going to test some grain storage. I'm going to fill this with rice, and I'm going to put a beeswax seal on this and warm it, and I'm going to seal this up, put it in the back of a closet for, I don't know, a year, and open it up and see what it looks like inside. But that's the idea, it's something like that. And then we have these two big boys, which I'm excited about these. Well, let me show you right away. The red glaze, I had really forgotten this. The red glaze crawls really bad if you put it over anything else. I've been trying to use this red up, but so when you look up down the center of it, and you can also see where the red went over the white, it kind of did a funny thing too, but I don't mind that. The crawling up here is a little bit irritating, but you know, it's a first attempt. Man, I think that looks good, and maybe with some sort of a wooden lid that I can tie down. So here's this. Yeah, I think it looked really good. Looks really good, and I like the finger marks. Actually, simple. So, got more of these to make, but for a first attempt, I think this turned out really good. I hope you make one yourself. You should try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments.